Welcome to my sewing room. I have the most wonderful and very educational show to share with you today. We're going to do a show all about shark's teeth. Now, what are shark's teeth? Let me just share that with you now. This beautiful shark's teeth ladies dress has the shark's teeth that start at the top and go down to the waistline, and then it has an absolutely magnificent skirt. I think I'm going to hold it up like this so you can see the skirt better. Has a perfectly beautiful skirt which has shark's teeth all the way down to the hem, wonderful Cluny lace along with some other antique lace and some beautiful machine embroidery. Shark's teeth can make the most wonderful, very tailored, and I might add daddy-pleasing little boy suits. This little boy's suit is done out of a beautiful batiste with shark's teeth down the front and then a really pretty buttery ecru linen for the pants. Absolutely elegant. You know, one of the things I really love to do is to do special occasions. Isn't this a beautiful collar for Valentine's Day or really for any special occasion? But this is shark's teeth with little tiny hearts stitched in between each tooth. Very tailored women's clothes is one of the things we're also doing a lot of these days. Look at this very elegant tailored woman's blouse with the shark's teeth that go down each side. Very, very simple, very tailored, and very elegant. And that's really what I would say about shark's teeth, period. This beautiful little dress, little girl's dress, has shark's teeth on the collar. Isn't that pretty, the way that's just a little piece is stitched down? And if we go down to the bottom of the dress, let me just do that for you real quickly, you'll see that we have shark's teeth on the bottom of the dress also, with a really pretty American eyelet sewn down at the bottom. Women's clothes do not have to be white to be elegant and have beautiful details. Let me turn this blouse around to the back. The shark's teeth here are absolutely wonderful. By the way, that's a little machine embroidery at the top. The shark's teeth have been stitched down with a beautiful pink and green stitching, and this is a beautiful blue, almost a denim-y fabric. And then the double needle up and down jig-jagged pin tucks on the bottom. Now the skirt is really pretty that goes with that blouse also. I'm going to go ahead and just hold it up so you can see the bottom of the skirt. Isn't that an elegant outfit for a woman to wear? So you can do a lot of teeth in the shark's teeth or just a little bit of teeth in the shark's teeth. Either way, it is a really magnificent technique. Speaking of techniques, come on over to the boards with me and I will share with you just how easy it is to make shark's teeth. It is my desire today that at the end of this show you will know everything there is to know about shark's teeth and think it's really easy. So let's start at the beginning. There is one kind of shark's teeth that you simply trace on the template. This is the folding line, this will be the stitching line, and these will be the cutting lines. Let me just fold it and show you how that will work. I will fold it along the fold line. I will stitch the tuck along the stitching line. Now let's see, that's already been done right here. I folded it, did my stitching on the fold like this, and then opened it up again. And now then I'm ready to cut on the cut lines. On this piece, that cutting has been done. You can see I sliced along each one of those lines, and I have these little rectangles here. Well, the idea now is that those rectangles have to be folded down and down to make a little triangle. Over here on this side, I have shown you exactly what it looks like after you use a little glue stick and fold one side back and one side back. There will be some little triangles here, and I do use glue stick to hold those little triangles. It makes it a lot easier. Now, I've pressed them down, fold them down. I am now ready to stitch exactly as you see it here. Zigzag or Madeira applique stitch or point to point, whatever stitch you want to do, even a baby daisy entredot, wing needle entredot, I will stitch along that same line through all of these layers of fabric. Now on this sample, I have done the zigzag stitch through all of those layers of fabric, and the shark's teeth row is finished. Now there is another type of shark's teeth you can do where you use a little guide, a little purchased guide. Let me show you how that works. When you use the purchased guide, it tells you where to run your fold lines. You have to mark the center. Now if you want 1/2 inch tucks, the fold lines are 1 1/2 inches apart. So that is a fold line, which means I fold it and then I use my marking on my sewing machine or my foot to make a 1/2 inch tuck, and I do the other line the same way. After I have stitched in the 2 1/2 inch tucks, this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to use my template, and I'm going to look on the template and see that it says to make a 1/2 inch tuck. This really makes it easy, by the way. All right, I'm going to line it up on the center, and I know this is my 1/2 inch tuck line, so I'll take my pen and draw, 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 draw right on those tucks. And there also are some little dots in there. Now I'm using my shish kebab stick. You know I'll use a pen, an erasable pen or a pencil. And I mark those little points in there. Now when I get ready for the next row, I will line my little template up on those little points I just drew, and then I will draw, 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 just go right down each one of those little lines. And if you will look here, all of these lines have been marked, and it's now time to clip on those little lines I've just marked. Clip, and I'll have my little rectangles once again. And once again, I'm going to fold it back, do a little glue stick, and then after I fold the whole thing and press it down, I am now ready to come in and once again do some kind of a stitch. In this case, I did a zigzag, and that is what shark's teeth look like. Come on over here to the sewing machine, and let's look at another beautiful pillow and go over that technique one more time. It isn't hard. Sometimes, though, on the show, I just go a little bit too fast, and we don't get the whole technique done. This pillow is absolutely beautiful. It has the shark's teeth in the middle. It's a linen pillow, white linen. It has wonderful ecru embroidery stitches, and the shark's teeth are stitched down with a Madeira applique stitch done with a regular needle, not a wing needle. Isn't that a beautiful pillow with this pretty Cluny lace? Okay, let's go over this one more time. I draw the fold line and the stitching line. I fold it and I stitch it. And here's what it looks like. Now it is time to cut all those little clips. So I'm going to cut all of those little clips. Now that I have some glue stick here, so I'm going to get my glue stick out, just if I can get the top off here. I'm going to fold one of these back, put a little bit of glue stick on it. This just makes it a little bit easier, and you know me, easy is what I like. Put a little glue stick back. I'm going to work on a pinning board. Pin it right about in the middle. That makes it a little bit easier to hold. I'm going to fold one part down like this. Fold the other part down like this. And do you see how much fun that glue stick is? I can just whip right along here really fast. Put a little more glue stick on the next one. Stick another pin in the middle here. One pin will do. Fold it down with that little glue stick, and it just holds it perfectly. A long time ago, before we knew about glue stick, this was a little harder to do. So you see I folded both of those back. Now, this is what it looks like after I have finished stitching it. I have folded it down, put it under the machine, and zigzag. Let's go over to the machine and just do a little zigzag. That's absolutely all you have to do. And you can use any of your decorative stitches. I just happen to use a little zigzag on this one. I'm zigzagging right on that line that I drew, exactly on that line that I drew. So I'm attaching all of these layers to the fabric so it'll be nice and flat and very, very secure. Now that is all there is to doing shark's teeth. Next, I have an absolutely magnificent shark's teeth nightshirt for you. This nightshirt is so simple to make. You can see it doesn't even have any set-in sleeves. It's just one piece across the front. The shark's teeth collar is just such a nice tailored touch. Coming down the front, there's some American insertions, one little row of shark's teeth, and isn't that a beautiful pocket? Just a real tailored pocket with the shark's teeth. and then the shark's teeth, just the one little simple row, plus the 2 rows of the American eyelet, come down the front of the little nightshirt. Now come on over here and let's review one more time how easy it is to make shark's teeth, and we're going to put the shark's teeth this time into a pocket. Okay, do you remember we draw the lines on the fold lines and the stitching lines? Well, I've already folded this for you, so we fold it up and we stitch in the tuck on the stitching lines. We do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Next, it looks like this, so I'm going to draw, or rather the lines are already drawn on. Now I've got to come in here and clip. So it's now time to get my little scissors, my trusty little scissors, and I come in and I clip all the way up to, and move my hand out of the way so you can see, I clip all the way up to the stitching line, all of these clips on the whole piece. Now then, I'm going to really make my shark's teeth. You know, we have our trusty glue stick here. I've already done it on the first 2 rows. Now, did you notice that we are on this row? Let me do this one because this is a little point I want to make. Okay, I'm going to put my pin there. I'm going to put a little glue stick on here. That just makes it easier to work with, a little glue stick. I'm going to mash it over. Move my finger now. Mash it over. Now, what am I going to do with this little raw edge over here? Because that doesn't have 2 pieces. Well, it's really simple. I'm going to come in, put a little glue stick on it, except I'm not going to put the glue stick. I just fold 1/2 of that point down, and then that will finish off my edge that makes my little pocket, little Christmas tree looking thing here go down. All right, after I fold all of it down, this is what it will look like, and I fold the pocket down. I've got a little line pocket here, so I'm going to fold it over. So it's going to be nice and heavy, and this one has already been stitched. Let me just show you how I'm going to stitch that. This time I'm going to use a pin stitch or a point de Paris or a Madeira applique stitch. That has little fingers that go down. The straight part goes right on the line of the stitching of the tuck, and the little fingers go down. And by the way, I am not using a wing needle on this Madeira applique stitch right now. It does not need it. You can use the wing needle if you want to, or it's really nice not to use the wing needle if you do not want to use the wing needle. See how pretty those little fingers are that go down? That makes a little bit of a decorative stitch. All right, after you've done your decorative stitch, then you turn your pocket inside out, stitch all the way around it, turn it right side out, and then you're ready to put your pocket on this very, very tailored pocket with a little bit of beading onto your really, really tailored nightshirt, which I think is so much fun and so easy to make too. And now I would like to share with you a shark's teeth quilt square. This is such a beautiful quilt square. The shark's teeth are a little bit different on this one. And by the way, you see the machine embroidery runs on this side, down the middle, and on this side. And also there's top stitching that is shaped somewhat, sort of, maybe like a shark's tooth. Now, what's different about this? The shark's teeth run on this side, then they run to this side and leave that little space in the middle, so there's room for a really pretty machine embroidery. Come on over and let me share with you how it is that you make shark's teeth on either side and leave room for machine embroidery in the middle. Once again, we draw our lines on. That's the fold line and the stitching line. And here I've stitched all those in. All of the folds and the tucks have been stitched in. Here we have clipped them. You have to clip on every line, just like we've shared before. You clip on every line, and then we put the glue stick and we fold it back. Now, I'm not going to glue stick and fold this time, but that's the way you start on the shark's teeth. And can you see how the tucks have been folded to either side, leaving room in the middle to do the machine embroidery down the middle? Now then, let's fold them back like we did a little bit of glue stick. You remember I showed you to put this pin in the middle here, then fold it back, and then when we get them all ready, we'll undo them, press them, and then we'll all go in this way for the sewing. They'll all be pressed down that way to sew. This way I've got it all pressed. Now on this side I've already zigzagged it or stitched it down. This side over here is ready to be stitched down. And remember, I can use any decorative stitch I want to. And the pattern it makes is also very dependent upon where you put the little lines that you're going to cut. See, this is an interesting pattern, and you really can do all kinds of different patterns with shark's teeth. You can run just one row of shark's teeth, you can run two, you can run three. Here I have a little triangle in there and then the little tiny shark's teeth. I think that's really quite elegant. And also on the quilt square, you remember we also had a little machine embroidery on this side, on this side, on this side, on this side, as well as the middle, and on the other side. There are all kinds of things you can do with shark's teeth, and I hope that we've been clear enough today so that you don't have any more questions about shark's teeth. And now I have some hand embroidery lessons for you. Today I'm so pleased to have as my guest my very dear friend Kathy Neal. Kathy is one of the most outstanding embroidery teachers in the world as far as I'm concerned, and today she is teaching one of my personal favorite embroidery stitches, shadow work. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha.
Now before you do the shadow work, I have to ask you about that fabulous lace collar you have on.
Oh, thank you. This is a Pointe de Gaze collar that I got in Belgium when I was there last fall, and it dates to about 1880 and is the wonderful handmade lace, and it is just it's a real treasure for me. Thank you for asking.
Oh, it's beautiful, Kathy. All right, tell us about shadow work, Kathy.
Well, shadow work is one of the ways that you can add embellishment to any garment or project for very little money. And it covers a wide area, and it just adds so much. The monogram that you see here on a nightgown that I made for myself is done in shadow work, and I chose those colors and that design to go with a lovely Swiss hand loom that I had purchased a number of years ago. And as you see, the colors coordinate, and it's just a very effective way to use the stitch. Also, on this wonderful, wonderful nightshirt pattern of yours, instead of doing any other embellishment, I focused on just one area, and that was the pocket. And I looked and looked for just the appropriate stripe because I wanted to do this little wallpaper print, I call, and couldn't find any, so I just made my own fabric. I shadow worked stripes in the background of the major design here, and as you see, it makes your own fabric also. So you see the shadow work on the bow and also the stripes, and it just adds just enough decoration to this nightshirt project. Let's get to the hoop and get to stitching, because that's the most fun part of all. When we do the shadow stitch, of course, as we have discussed before, we want to spray starch our fabric and use a number 2 pencil to transfer our design. The starch keeps you from actually damaging the fibers in the fabric. It keeps the design on top. And what we want to do is start with a thread and put a nice fat knot in the end. And we put the knot right through the top of the hoop, and we call this a waste knot because it wastes a little bit of thread. But what we want to do, these are just back stitches, very simple back stitches. And we start one stitch, which is approximately a 1/16 of an inch, back from the end of the design line, and we do a back stitch, which is just a punch and pull and punch stitch. Now, after we've done that, we come to the other side of the design. Now, this design, we don't want to do shadow work on any design wider than a 1/2 inch, Martha. That's very important, because what happens is, do a back stitch on that side. Now, very important to make a successful stitch. When we go to the other side, we're just alternating sides with back stitches. We want to make sure that the needle pierces in the same hole that the previous stitch ended.
What kind of a needle are you using, Kathy?
I'm using a 7 between because I'm using floche and it doesn't damage the thread. The eye is very nice and round, and we'll talk about threads and needles on one of my visits.
Okay.
Here we alternate to another side of the fabric, and shadow work, what it does is it leaves crisscrosses of thread on the back of the fabric, and I'm going to turn my hoop over in just a minute and show you that. what's happened on the back of our fabric, because actually there's no color. It looks like fabric has been appliqued onto the fabric, but I'm going to turn my hoop over and show you what has happened. Do you see where we have crisscrosses of thread on the back of the fabric? That density of thread actually shows through, and you can see it better when I put another layer and you see this lovely blue shadow, and that is what shows through here on the bow. This is not actually blue fabric, it's just the thread showing through from behind. A couple of pointers that I might want to remind you of: if there is any sort of needle design on top, like this nice long leaf, you want to do any type of surface embroidery first. That's very important.
Okay.
If you do it last, then it might squinch up those threads on the back, and it'll leave gaps, and you won't have that color showing through. Also, if it comes to a very sharp point, as in this nice leaf design, what you want to do is take a couple of just absolutely plain back stitches, just like that, to make that line. And then start your shadow work, first on one side and then on the other, just as we did up here. If you have a circular shape, then you want to start with about 3 back stitches along the perimeter of your circular design. That way it doesn't have a point on one side of your circle, and we don't want that because you lose the shape of your circle. And finally, one last tip I'd like to give about this shadow work is, if you have a design that happens to be, such as this leaf here, more than 1/2 of an inch. This is a leaf, and what I've done is I added a vein to the leaf. I simply treated it as 2 different sections of shadow work to be done. I first shadow worked the first half of the leaf, and then I'm going to go back and shadow work the second half. And Martha, when we do the shadow work, we just repeat those middle stitches that go down the vein line. We just go right over them, and actually they will have 2 threads across the center vein line, whereas on the outside there'll only be 1 layer.
Oh, Kathy, that's absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing one of my favorite embroidery
Well, thank you.
stitches.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now let's go to the attic. I have a really beautiful ladies' night dress to share with you. It has total hand embroidery on it. This certainly is late Victorian. The fabric is really a linen, a very lightweight sort of handkerchief linen. The first embroidery I would love for you to see because it is so pretty. It is a drawn thread fill-to-ray. You pull the threads, and that's how you get that open work. And then, of course, the beautiful stem stitches and satin stitches. Isn't this a magnificent collar? It has the beautiful scallops, and then there are the little eyelets all around the collar. Absolutely beautiful. And then look at the detailing as we come down the front. Have you ever seen such a pretty little encasement for a buttonhole? I just think it's beautiful. Some more of the drawn thread fill-to-ray. Then those beautiful little scallops with a button right in the middle. And you know, I'm going to pull the sleeve over here because it absolutely is one of the prettiest sleeves I've ever seen. It has the drawn thread fill-to-ray, and it has the beautiful scalloped edges around the whole, all the way around the sleeve. The little tiny eyelets, once again, so many of those pretty flowers. Now the actual embroidery goes all the way down, to about halfway down the gown, maybe a little bit further, with these magnificent tiny little eyelets. When I think about the time that someone spent on this dressing gown, well, actually, I'm glad they really made it out of this heavy linen because it certainly had a lot of time on it, and it's lasted a long time too. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room today. Won't you come back next time?